Hi, my name's Kitchell. I'm going to go over a little bit of generator proper usage. The biggest thing when you're using these generators is you have to check the oil every single day. It's the first thing you'll do. There's 2 lines on this. It has to be to the second line. That means it's full. It can be in between, but if it gets too low, it won't start. It's got an automatic shut-off switch. So generally needs in between the 2, but when you're starting up, you're going to fill it and make sure it doesn't go past that second hole. That's full. That's number 1. The second biggest reason why these things come back is there's an on-off switch. I guess because they leave it running and it runs out of gas, this is always on, but that kills the battery over a very short period of time. This should always be off. When you're done using it, make sure the on-off switch is off. The third biggest thing is this lifting chain. When you're lifting these generators, you're always going to have it to the back of the fork, very back. You're never going to want to hold it around carrying it on the tip of the fork because it could slide off and fall off. So always make sure when you're moving the forklift, it's at the very back of the fork and the fork's tilted up a little bit. What happens is they get done with the forklift, they drop it straight down, but if you can see down in here, there's a choke cable that starts the generator that damages that all the time. It gets caught on that, they got to pick it up again, and the choke doesn't work properly. Second thing about this chain, you would never have this chain sitting where the exhaust of the muffler is. Running for 4 or 5 hours and you go to grab that, it's going to be extremely hot. The proper position of this lifting chain would be on the back side of the muffler on the frame. There might be an instance where you might have to change the battery. You're always going to want to make sure you have your proper PPE. Corrosive resistant glove, preferably the leather gloves. You're going to have your eye protection. Because this is corrosive, the acid could burn your skin. So always wear your proper PPE when you're messing with batteries, if you have to change it out there in the field. A lot of beginners don't realize how these generators roll. There's a swivel wheel that's always going to be in front of you so you can control the generator. Makes it a lot easier to pull and push. When you're using this generator, you should always make sure that the breakers are off. 5 breaker switches. So when you're done with the generator, power off, all 5 breakers off, and these 5 breakers are going to control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all 5 breakers. If you don't need the breakers and you're only using a 110 and a 220, whichever one that is, just keep those up. You don't need the other breakers on. If you're working with something and you have a cord plugged in, that's also going to be unplugged every time you get done. There is still current inside there and you don't want to damage any of the machines. Never start the generator with it plugged in or the breakers on. There is an idle control on this that helps you have more fuel efficient when you're in the field. If the idle control is off, it's going to be running at its highest RPM. So in the field, you want to have that on, so it'll be running at a lower RPM. Everything's off before we start. The idle control, the operation switch, everything's off. To turn it on, you're going to hit the switch on. You're going to pull the choke out, and then you're going to start this. And it's going to be hard to hear. Once it starts, you're going to put the choke back in slowly. Once it warms up, then you can put your idle control to low. Now it'll be burning the least amount of fuel the whole rest of the day at work. Like I said, when you're completely done, all your breakers and all your cords, everything is unplugged. These are the new 2200 inverter generators that we've introduced. They save COMANCO a lot of time. They're a lot lighter, but there are a few things that we need to do to make sure these are protected. The biggest reasons why these come back is that they aren't on this mat. When you put these in the mud and the sludge, it builds up in here and it gets on the cord and the cord breaks. What I would like to see, cut a piece of liner on here and make sure these are always sitting on a piece of liner to keep them protected. When you're starting these, it's got an on and off switch. That's off, that's on. Here's the choke. You're going to push it to the right where the arrow goes, only to start it. Once it starts, you're going to pull the choke back off. Take it on slowly. This also has a high-low switch. When you're running it and you don't need it, you can put it on the echo mode, and when you need more, you can turn it on high. This only has 2 110 outlets. And then when you're done, you simply switch it to off. But most importantly, please keep this on a piece of liner.